I'm a little worried about Mel Kiper with Shedeur Sanders not getting drafted last night.
Mel, when Mel gets locked in, you know how that goes. He believes what he believes, and that's part of draft evaluation, right? You get convicted on something, and one of the things you have to do, I guess, though, Dan, when you're in the middle of the broadcast, is look. These are these individual players' moment in time that they're never going to have again. So you don't want to rob anyone else of their time because you personally feel a certain way about maybe another player. And I think sometimes fans get annoyed at that, and I get that. And I know there were some people who were a little annoyed last night that they thought that after Cam got picked that our conversation quickly shifted to where's Shedeur going to wind up going. And I get that. I understand it. But Mel's he believes what he believes about Shedeur the same way I believe what I believed about C.J. Stroud and Jaden Daniels, the past 2 years. So we'll see how it all turns out.
How surprised were you that he wasn't taken in the first round?
I am, but I'm not. Because, see, I'm surprised because, look, I know the football player. I know that this young man, if you strip away the fact that he's Shedeur Sanders and he's Deion Sanders' son, and that he is someone who is very confident, very self-assured, someone who has lived a great life because of his father has had a great life, that there are some people who just inherently are very jealous of that. And look, when you're talking about player evaluation, there is a subjective personal component to it. You cannot, it's hard for a guy, look, there are human beings who are evaluating these guys and human beings who are picking them. And sometimes if someone comes off the wrong way to you or you don't like it, this doesn't jive with you, it's going to affect your evaluation. But the evaluation on the football field cannot be disputed. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. There are many people who would tell you, look, throw for throw, he can match up with anybody in this draft. Whether that's Cam, whether that's Jackson Dart, whether that's Tyler Shough, he can match up throw for throw. He had no help at Colorado, no offensive line. Like, he had more free runners come at him over the past 2 years than any quarterback in FBS, but still he slid. So what does that tell you? There's some things that people just don't like or don't feel are worth first-round value. He's going to get picked today, and I'll tell you what, if you thought he had a chip on his shoulder before, if you thought he was a little bit surly before, look out.
Give me the draft night strategy you didn't understand.
I didn't understand. I think, look, I understand why. I think the one that was probably a little bit of a risk, look, I mean, Atlanta gave up a lot to move up in order to draft James Pierce, okay, who had some concerns about, just are you going to be able to trust James Pierce to do the right things all the time and be a dependable player and really fix the number one thing that has haunted Atlanta over the past 4 years, which is they just can't rush the passer. Yeah. They just can't. James Pierce is like Javon Kearse, though, in terms of athletic ability. 6'5", 245, runs 4.47. I mean, that's ridiculous. But that's not really what determines success and failure all the time. It's about doing the right thing, being consistent and all that. So the price that they paid in order to get him, look, I understand, like, when you're trying to get pass rushers, you're trying to get difference makers, that you will sometimes go above and beyond what you originally thought you would. I just hope that pans out for Raheem and the crew and Terry Fontenot, the GM down there in Atlanta, because they need him to hit big, real big.
I thought the Steelers were going to take a running back. Because you don't have Najee Harris.
Right.
They love to run the football.
True. But you know what? Cam Hayward's is getting older. The defense, although it has been like their bedrock, they need to replenish it. I get it. What I'm surprised.
Yeah, but you don't have a quarterback.
You're right. Look, and I'm not really defending them. I'm just kind of like trying to look at it through their eyes. Look, Derek Harmon has to be big time for them. He has to be the next Cam Hayward. He has to be the next Aaron Smith. All those guys that were there and that played great football and helped them win Super Bowls and be perennial Super Bowl contenders. Look, I agree with you though. I agree with you. What are they going to do at quarterback now? It's Aaron Rodgers or bust. It just is, and that is a hell of a position to be in. Would you want to count on that?
No.
Would you want to count on him making a decision anytime soon? Does he sound like someone who wants to make a decision anytime soon? Absolutely not. And they're not going anywhere with Mason Rudolph, as much as I respect Mason Rudolph.
I was told last night they like the quarterback out of Louisville.
Tyler Shuck, look, I think...
Now, he's 25.
He's still... he's still a guy who will be a two-contract quarterback. He'll play 10, 15 years in the NFL. All the medical checks that he has had, because that's the other thing that people worry about.
Yeah.
The injuries that he had, look, he broke his collarbone twice running the football, got hit right on it, had someone roll on his ankle, fracture his lower leg. Those are things that can happen to any quarter. You can't prevent that. So he's not injury-prone. But I will tell you this, what he is maybe the most throw-for-throw, most talented thrower in this draft, is what he is. He can throw the football right alongside Milroe, Cam, Shedeur, Jackson, all of them. You just haven't heard about him.
Yeah.
And he's been tutored by Jeff and Brian Brom down there in Louisville. There aren't any better quarterback tutors in college football. Wherever he goes, just remember that name. Remember Tyler Shuck's name. He is going to surprise the entire NFL in 2025.
He's got to spell his name differently, I think.
Yeah, S-H-O-U-G-H does not sound like Shuck, does it?
Yeah.
No.
Our quarterback Shucks. He's Louis Riddick of the Mothership joining us. And, of course, the draft day coverage continues tonight at 7 Eastern. The Rookie of the Year will be who?
It'll be Travis Hunter. He's just – I said it when I was out there at his pro day. In all my years of football, I used to come up here to Green Bay. My cousin was Tim Lewis, who was drafted here in 1983 as the first-round pick, the 11th overall pick. I used to come up here and train with him in the summertime. So I was around James Lofton. I've been around Andre Reed in Buffalo when my brother played there, when James Lofton was there. I played with Jerry Rice, played against Jerry Rice, Michael Irvin, all these dudes. I have never seen hand-eye coordination like Travis Hunter in my life. He's the natural. He's just a natural athlete. He's a natural football player. And he's a guy who, look, he's going to change the game. And James Gladstone, the GM of the Jaguars, talked about that this is a guy who's probably, when it's all said and done, is going to redefine how we evaluate football players. And maybe, he will be the standard by which a lot of guys, especially at skill positions, are going to be judged from now on. He's got a tremendous cardiovascular engine that I'd love to see him take one of those tests like Lance Armstrong took, one of those VO2 max tests. Because what he did at Colorado, human beings aren't supposed to be able to do, especially not at altitude like that. At altitude,
yeah. I was going to say that.
And when I watched him catching the ball out there out there in Boulder, he didn't wear gloves. Everybody wears gloves nowadays, right? You know the technology now with gloves. You just have to put your hand up there. The ball just sticks to it. He had no gloves on, and I'm telling you, Shedeur was humming that football, and you would just hear it as if you were throwing that ball into a pillow. You heard nothing. He wasn't even looking. It was just like I was just sitting there looking at it. My mouth is just dropped open like, what is happening here?
Okay, but you're giving all of this credit and praise. Did Cleveland make a mistake?
I would have taken him if I was Cleveland.
Okay.
I would have taken him for a number of reasons. One, he's going to put people in the stands. You're going to want to go see Travis the same way people, when I played with Deion, wanted to come watch Shedeur Sanders play. It was a show. I mean, you know what that was like. Every time he touched the ball, you were like, this dude's about to do something that's going to be on SportsCenter.
But Deion could have done this.
Done what? Played both ways?
Yeah.
Yeah, he could have. He could, and you know what? And Travis is not going to play 125, 130 snaps combined, offense, defense, every game. He can't do that in the NFL. You can do that in college. You can't do that in the NFL. And besides, you'll probably burn him out by about 3 or 4 years anyway. Do you really want to do that? To me, it's probably going to be like a 60-40, 70-30 split in terms of percentage. 70% offense, 30% defense. Make sure he's on the field on all third downs, all 2-minute situations. Somebody has an alpha receiver, put him on him. But on offense, look, in Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence is like, please, put that guy on the field with me. Him and Brian Thomas Jr., come on. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
But you wouldn't take a wide receiver number 2, and you wouldn't take a defensive back number 2.
You know what? I played with Eric Turner in Cleveland, who Bill Belichick drafted number 2 overall in 91. And I would take any position on offense that could produce explosive plays and put points on the board and change the game at the drop of a hat.
But then why not Ashton Genty?
So I would take Ashton Genty number 2. Look, the game is about explosive plays and how quickly can you score, how quickly can you alter the game. That's what everybody wants. And I don't care where I get that from. Look, Ashton Genty is one of one also, just like Travis is. Ashton, I believed if he went to a place that had a relatively, let's just say, top 10 to 12 offensive line, Ashton Genty, I think, could break Eric Dickerson's rookie rushing record. He could go over 1,800 yards. If you see him, how he's put together, he can handle the load. It's just whether or not you're going to give him enough opportunity to do it.
If he ran behind the Eagles' offensive line.
He's easy over 2K. Easily. He's not as fast as Saquon, but I'm telling you, this dude, when you see him.
Who would you rather have?
Saquon, because he's a little bigger and faster. A little bit fast. Well, I mean, Saquon's 4'3". Ashton's probably like 4'1". But they're both great people.
What is the difference in 4'3" and 4'4"?
I don't know. You asked me to make a choice, man. So
No, but I'm just saying.
You know what?
Like we get caught up in numbers.
Funny? You know what's wild is like when they do it at the draft, when they superimpose guys running 40s, you see like the difference between 4'4", 4'1", and 4'3", is like a full stride. So that's the difference between a guy, like a wide receiver, for instance, being even with a defensive back versus a quarterback looking at him going, he's got a full half yard to a yard of separation. I'm going to throw it to him, or now it looks like he's even. I'm not going to. That's what it is. It's literally a step.
Jerry Rice ran a 4.640.
You know what, though, on the field, and there is
football speed,
no question,
and regular track speed, right?
There's no question.
Because Jerry didn't get caught from behind.
Never. Look, Jerry, I played everything with Jerry was full speed. I have so many funny stories about Jerry Rice when we played against him. But yeah, he is. You know who else was like that? Michael Irvin didn't run 4.4, 4.3, but you never very, very, very rarely saw anybody catching him from behind either. Now, what's interesting, right? There's some speculation about like the wide receiver that the Packers drafted number 1 overall, Matthew Golden. Golden ran high 4.2. On the field, you look at him, you go, is he really that fast? Does he look that fast? But I'll tell you, now, as the season went on down there in Texas, and he got more comfortable with the offense, he looked 4.2. In the beginning of the season, he didn't. So a lot of times, how a guy plays on the field versus how he times on a track is a function of how comfortable are you with the offense that you're running, how confident do you feel. I mean, there's a lot of different things that go into that. But, by the way, I love Matthew Golden, by the way. And Steve Sarkisian told me, Sark told me just yesterday, wherever he goes, he is a character guy, a culture builder. He'll do exactly what you want, and he's got so much runway ahead of him. And so for the Packers to pick, it was just perfect. It was a perfect match between this organization and him. Perfect.
It's good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for all your contributions.
Always, man.
Whenever we called, you were available to help make us smarter.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
He's Louis Riddick of the Mothership. We'll take a break. We're back after this.